Hello, everybody. My name is Natosha Caesar. I am a student at Alabama A&M, and I am studying social work. And the topic that I chose for my presentation was immigration and undocumented workers in urban areas. So we're going to start off my presentation with the introduction. Undocumented immigrants are simply those who have entered the United States without proper documentation, either by crossing the border illegally or overstaying their non-immigrant visas. An undocumented worker is an individual who is not authorized to work in the United States because they lack U.S. citizenship, a work visa, or a permanent resident green card. Individuals immigrate to countries like ours, which is the United States, to reunite with their family, study, or to seek some personal safety. The second key point we're going to talk about is the scope of the issue relating to these undocumented workers and immigrants. To fully grasp the full scope of the problem, we must examine important factors like the number of individuals affected and where they are located. Unfortunately, the hidden nature of undocumented workers can make it difficult to determine their exact numbers. However, we know that many people are living in the United States without this proper documentation. But it's important that we keep in mind as we work towards the finding solutions to this complex issue. Undocumented workers tend to cluster in urban areas with strong job markets and established immigrant communities. Proximity to the border, agriculture, and construction also influence their distribution. Recognizing their geographic dimension is crucial for developing policies that address their needs and integrate them into society. In an article published in 2019, most of the United States' 10.7 million unauthorized immigrants live in just 20 major metropolitan areas, with the largest populations in New York, Los Angeles, Houston, and Dallas-Fort Worth, according to the Pew Research Center estimates based on government data. In 2019, there were more than 4.2 million immigrants from Mexico who lacked documentation. Together, they made up more than 40.8% of the 10.3 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. The second point in my presentation is the economic contributions that these workers have made. Mexican undocumented workers have some of the highest employment rates in the country. Americans rely on the impacts of the undocumented workers that they contribute to the society and economy. Undocumented workers play a vital and indispensable role in urban labor markets, particularly in industries such as hospitality, construction, and domestic services. Their presence is essential to the smooth operation of metropolitan economies as they perform critical responsibilities that are often neglected by native born or legal residents. These workers take on labor intensive constructions and maintenance jobs, which are crucial for the development and maintenance of urban infrastructure. Their contribution to the economy must be recognized and it must be valued. Undocumented persons frequently work in service industries like restaurants and cleaning services, offering valuable support to urban residents and businesses. Despite encountering legal and social restrictions, undocumented workers contribute significantly to the urban region's economic vitality and diversity, highlighting their importance in sustaining and enriching metropolitan communities. Recognizing and respecting their contributions is critical to creating inclusive and lively urban settings. Now we're going to talk about labor exploitation as it relates to undocumented workers when they're working for these companies in the US. Undocumented workers in urban areas, due to their vulnerable legal status and lack of protections, are particularly susceptible to being exposed to various forms of labor exploitation, such as dangerous working conditions, wage theft, blackmailing, and physical emotional abuse. Unethical employers exploit the vulnerable conditions of illegal workers in metropolitan areas, not only by withholding payments, but also by engaging in systematic underpayment practices, compounding financial hardships and prolonging poverty cycles in these communities. By intentionally breaking labor rules and leveraging the threat of deportation, unscrupulous businesses create a coercive climate in which undocumented workers feel driven to accept poor salaries and also awful working conditions. This is a quote that I found related to labor exploitation with these undocumented workers. Research shows that immigrants workers experience 300 more workplace fatalities and 61,000 more workplace injuries annually than native born workers, and undocumented immigrants are likely to experience dangerous working conditions than legal immigrants. The Immigration Reform Act of 1968, a policy to address this issue. Under the Immigration Reform and Control Act, employees are strictly prohibited from knowingly recruiting unauthorized workers. Employees must comply with the law by obtaining immigration status information from their employees using Form I-9 forms. Any firm that hires unauthorized workers is subject to severe penalties. It is important to know, however, that the IRCA does not prevent undocumented workers from working as independent contractors. Here's a quote I also found pertaining to this policy. Between lax enforcement of the hiring guidelines and the independent contractor folic, undocumented workers often find low wage and often unsafe jobs in the United States, with employers able to avoid any legal responsibilities for issuing overtime pay and protections in the case of injuries. As a result, undocumented workers often lack in practice the rights and protections enriched in the laws that could benefit them. Now we're going to talk about the social impact as it relates to these undocumented workers. Undocumented workers undeniably enrich the cultural diversity of urban locations across the United States through their valuable contributions of new tradition, languages, and perspectives. These workers are also vital to the economic success of metropolitan areas as they hold critical positions in industries such as construction, hospitality, and domestic service, as mentioned before. Their contribution cannot be overlooked. However, limited access to legal protections and essential services exacerbates social inequality and hinders integration of undocumented individuals into society. The unknown legal status of undocumented workers increases anxiety and fear within these communities, which damages social connections and trust. We must take action to address these issues and ensure fair treatment for everyone. Now we're going to talk about the legal challenges as it relates to undocumented workers being in these urban communities. Number one is employment rights. Undocumented workers often suffer from labor exploitation such as wage theft, dangerous working conditions, and discrimination, but are unable to seek legal assistance due to their unlawful status. The second point is access to legal representation. Undocumented workers may struggle to obtain legal representation or aid due to financial constraints or fear of deportation. This affects their capacity to negotiate complex legal process involving employment disputes, immigration concerns, and other legal matters. Three, immigration enforcement. In cities with heightened enforcement measures, undocumented workers are at risk of being detained and deported by immigration authorities. Such actions can cause upheaval in their personal lives, families, and communities, leading to a grave legal and social implications. And the fourth point is access to essential services. Undocumented workers encounter significant legal challenges in obtaining fundamental services such as healthcare, education, and social support programs due to their immigration status. They may encounter issues with accessing medical treatment, enrolling their children in school, or also receiving public assistance. Now we're going to talk about policy implications as it relates to undocumented workers. And this is a policy that helps undocumented workers in a sense, but it doesn't really give them the full safe haven that they need. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Act of 1964. This act is responsible for enforcing federal laws that that prohibit employee discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. While the EEOC does not explicitly protect undocumented workers, it does provide protection against workplace discrimination for all individuals, regardless of immigration status in certain circumstances. And this is an example that I basically found related to um, what this act is basically trying to say and how it does help people who are in countries that are illegal. So the example is undocumented workers are protected from discrimination based on their national origin or race under the title of Civil Rights Act of 1964. Additionally, the EEOC has taken the position that employees cannot discriminate against individuals based on their citizenship status or national origin during the hiring, firing, or unemployment eligibility verification process. So here are public perceptions and stereotypes that most Americans or anybody who's the natural born citizen to their country and how they view people who immigrate to their country. I'm sorry. So many biases stem from stereotypes, which are defined as generalized ideas and images about groups of people. Misinformation, fear, and deeply ingrained biases are often shape public attitudes and stereotypes towards undocumented workers in metropolitan areas. Many individuals harbor negative preconceptions about such workers, considering them to be a burden on resources, taking jobs away from Native citizens, or even regarding them as criminals. Political rhetoric and medical media often focuses on problems caused by unauthorized immigrants, shaping perceptions. However, undocumented immigrants make up significant contributions to the urban communities, especially in agriculture, construction, and services, domestic services. And here is a call of action that I thought would be helpful relating to helping the immigrants that come to our country or anybody's country. So, as a community, it is our responsibility to stand up for the rights and well being of all individuals, regardless of their status, gender, age, disability, or anything. Undocumented workers face numerous challenges that require our support and advocacy. By coming together and demanding comprehensive immigration reform, we can help provide a path to legal status and ensure that these individuals are not left behind. Inclusive and supportive workplaces should be created for undocumented workers. By advocating for equitable legislation and practical assistance, we can help them thrive and contribute positively to our communities. Let's all stand in unity to protect the dignity and rights of all individuals, regardless of their immigration status. So now we have reached the end of my PowerPoint, and I just want to say thank you all for watching. I hope everybody or somebody learned something new from my PowerPoint, or it made you want to delve deep more into the research of these undocumented workers in urban areas and also in rural